Good morning. Let's see if I can do this video without waking up my children. So I'm going to talk a little quieter. Hopefully you can hear me. And we'll go from there. It is 7:30 in the morning and I just woke up and got ready for the day, and my kiddos are still asleep, which is rare. And I'm thinking, man, I really could be sleeping in right now, but I guess I'm going to do a video. I think my talking is waking up my child. I'm wondering if you can hear a dun, 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 dun. That's him going like this and hitting his head on the side of his bed. I don't know why he does that, but that's how he tries to push himself back to sleep. Anyway, let's try to get through this video. So my last video was a long time ago, and in that video I said, hey, I'm gonna get back on the scale and weigh myself every week and yada yada yada. Well, that same week, at the end of that week before my weigh-in, we were outside with a beach day. That was my husband's fun idea. He put some reggae music out and some beach towels in the front lawn, and we were playing in the sprinklers, and he was longboarding up and down the street. Well, he likes to longboard with our kids. They wear helmets, thank heavens. And a car pulled around the corner really fast. Like, we live on a slight incline or downhill, either whichever way you go. And those cars that come around our house, they go fast, and then right around the corner, like there's like a corner. I'm not explaining myself very well. Anyway, they spin around that corner so fast, and so Jake was coming down, and then a car was spinning around the corner, and so he bailed like you're supposed to on the longboard or skateboard, and the loops on his shoe were too long, so he stepped on the shoe, and he had my youngest, Winston. He held on to Winston and held him into his chest to protect him, and then he just landed on his shoulder, left shoulder, this one, and he tore all the ligaments in his shoulder. So it was just hanging there. There wasn't a whole lot to it, and he had really bad road rash, but more like road pizza, because I don't know why it would call it a rash when it's shredded. And then his shoulder, it was a level 3 shoulder displacement, which means that all 3 of the ligaments that hold the shoulder together, all 3 of them were torn, to the point where it was bad enough that he needs surgery, or needed surgery. We'll get to that. So when we went to his appointment, because of the COVID thing, they would have gotten him in that week, but because of the lovely COVID thing that the entire world is going through, a lot of the surgeons are at the front lines in New York. And so, where they're really desperately needed, and the surgeons that are left behind, they have very strict instructions of what surgeries they're allowed to do. And so even though Jake's not dying and it's not life-threatening, they pushed his surgery out until July. And we're like, okay, what is he supposed to do with it until then? So he was not able to use his arm for about 2.5, 3 weeks. And it definitely was a learning curve for both of us. I feel like it wasn't just his trial that he needed to go through, it was mine too. It was really hard. So that's kind of why these videos, I just, A, 100% forgot about them, and B, they weren't as important as trying to take care of my family. So that's why you hadn't seen me for a while. So my role as mother turned into mother and father, and taking care of everything. So I have become very dependent on my husband with a lot of things I didn't realize I happened, but we've been married for almost 12 years now, and so you just get used to each other doing specific things, and he did all the heavy lifting. Like all the heavy lifting, anything that was physically exhausting, moving boxes up and down from the attic, or yard work, or even taking the garbage out, like just anything that was. He would even bring my laundry baskets up and down the stairs for me. He's such a sweetheart, and he's so good to me. Like he's just, he takes care of me in so many ways, and I just kind of, not that I took it for granted, just that I got used to it, like in a good way, that I know that my husband's gonna help me and take care of me. And so doing everything, and I'm talking about everything, was a huge adjustment. I was so tired and exhausted, taking care of the kids 24/7, getting groceries, putting it all away, hauling them up by myself, which, you guys, like, these are things that I should do anyway, especially if I'm trying to release weight. Like, it was good for me to do all of that on my own. It really was. And so that's why I'm saying I feel like it wasn't just his trial, it was mine too. Because I needed to, I think, get some of my self-confidence back. Yeah, I'll get more into that in a second. So, I got a phone call about a week and a half into his injury, and it was the roofing company said that they can come like the next day instead of 3 weeks out when they were supposed to come. They said that they had some time and that they could just get it done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like there were things that I wanted to do before they came. I have these huge juniper trees that are right against the house that are ruining the foundation. The previous owners that planted them let them get just too big and too overbearing, and so they were causing havoc to the gutters system on the house and also the foundation. And we originally had 3, and we had a sweet neighbor come and pull out 2 of them. No, 1 of them. I think 1 was out before then. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I had a sweet neighbor come and pull out 1 of them when Jake had his stroke last year. And then this year, I still had 1 more to do. So I did it. Yeah, I did, with a friend of mine. She lives up the street, and she came, she came and helped me dig out that massive tree, and I was so proud of myself and proud of her that she and I did it together. And it's like women power, it was empowering for me because those are things I depended my husband on, and he couldn't function, so I did it. And I was really proud of myself. And we also had 2 thorn bushes that I dug out all by myself. My mom came and helped me trim one of them down, but I dug them out myself, and I was so proud of myself that I did that. And I planted an entire garden, and I added a whole nother L-shaped garden on the other side of the house, and it was a lot of work, and it was very empowering that I was able to do it myself. Guys, in the 12 years that I've been married to my husband, I have mowed our lawn once. One time, and it was when he wasn't feeling well, and so I surprised him and I got it done before he got home from work. But then he was like, that's my job, like, don't, what is it called? He felt like that's his manlyhood to do the yard work, and I didn't realize, how like important it was for him. So I just never did it after that. One time, guys, in 12 years. I know I'm pretty lucky. Anyway, so then I had some good friends that wanted to come and help. So they came and helped a couple of times to do the lawn, which I was very grateful for. But I did all the trimming and the edging and all that fun stuff. But I didn't want them to have to come all the time. So then I started doing it. And guys, I don't know why it's so stinking hard for me to push that darn lawnmower. I think we need a new one. I think it's like seen its days. I think my life would be much easier if we updated it. But it is so stinking hard for me, and I have exercise induced asthma that I've had since forever. And it like kills me. But my whole point is I did it, and I am so proud of myself. So I feel like his injury has been really empowering for me too, to kind of gain some confidence back and to do things that I normally would have done. I'm a very independent person. You know, I get something in my mind and I just do it. Sometimes to a fault, just depending. For example, I gave myself heat stroke last week. Which, by the way, I'm going off tangent. So the roof is done. It looks beautiful. We had some issues. I didn't like the first coloring. They got about a fourth way through and I hated it. So I had them tear it off and change it out. I know, I'm very particular. So they did that. And then some of the siding, it was slightly crooked. So I made them redo it. Like, I'm so particular with things. But this company did a really great job. They were really understanding and they fixed everything I asked them to fix, and the painting was fabulous. Everything just looks great. So I'm super excited. That project is done. Their pricing was so much better than we got 4 bids, and they were like leaps and bounds cheaper than the other companies. So I'm very grateful about that too. If you're curious, message me and I'll let you know who it is. Utah based. So yeah, there's that, and I was really excited about that. And where was I going with this? I know there was something I was going with. Oh, so once the siding was replaced, it looked all new and fancy and pretty, and so my existing soffit just looked dingy and yucky. So I'm like, you know what? I can do it. I'm just gonna pull out my ladders and do it. So I did, and I was so proud of myself. I caulked all the cracks and to try to make it like new and pretty again, and repainted it. And it took me all day to do the front part. I haven't even touched the back part yet. I think that's today or tomorrow's project. But being out there in the blaring sun, I gave myself a heat. I think it was a heat stroke because I spiked a fever and I was so nauseous. I couldn't eat anything and I felt horrible. But I think because of the temperature spike, I think it was a mild heat stroke. So I had to take a few days off and take care of myself. I feel a lot better now. But we ended up going to Lagoon, which I know a lot of you were curious to know how that is. So I'll touch on that a little bit. Jake and I were back and forth. So he received part of his Christmas bonus at work, season passes for the whole family. And we were back and forth if we wanted to cash them in or not. They are allowing you to cash them in next year if you don't want to this year, but I don't think it's going to be much better next year. So we decided, with some research, with the whole COVID thing going on, that apparently the research I read, at least, said that it spreads better and faster in the cold than in the heat. So I mean, it still spreads, of course, but it spreads more likely to spread on surfaces in the colder, like fallish weather. um, and that the heat is less likely for it to survive on like surfaces. So it still can, but it's less likely to. And then also another research thing I read was that it's more likely to spread from person to person. So if you're close to somebody, and somebody's coughing on you or whatever, you're more likely to contract it that way. And even though it can happen, and then it does happen, spread from surface to surface, and is least likely, like by a lot, to contract it on surfaces. So my husband and I said, okay, let's read what Lagoon is offering for people. And so you're supposed to stay 6 feet away when you're waiting in the rides, and they're only doing every other cars to stay away from people. They have hand sanitizers at every ride. So every ride before we got on and off, we hand sanitized everyone. And they, in the Laguna Beach, they kept the water warmer, which I was so hot. I was excited for the cool water. Yeah, it wasn't that cool. So it was hot. We went when it was 95 degrees and it was hot. And so other people are also wondering if how awesome it was because they're not letting as many people in the park. Okay, guys, the wait lines are still the same because they're only letting people in every other. And so, yeah, there's not as many people, but they're not letting as many people on the rides anyway. Does that make sense? So it's like the same amount of wait time. Was it fun? Yes, we had a great time. The kids needed it. And will we go again? Oh, yeah, probably a dozen more times before hopefully they don't close. My husband and I decided to have a summer with precautions. So we've gone to the lake a couple of times. You know, we have our own little beach spot, so we stay away from other people, and we just basically been staying away from other people, but staying with our little unit of a family. So we decided to have a summer at least for June and July, and then come August we will reevaluate and go from there. We'll probably re-quarantine ourselves coming fall. Anyway, so that's my update. As far as weight loss, I decided to stop obsessing over it. I haven't stood on the scale probably since the last time I talked to you. I am gonna try to do more positive thinking, and it really has rabbit holed me down to being way more self-conscious with myself. And the video is going to end soon. So it's rabbit holed me down into more negative thought instead of positive thought. And so instead I'm going to focus on positive thought and see how that goes for me. It has helped tremendously on my self-conscious. I feel a whole lot more confident. And so I think I'm just going to keep it that way for a while. But I will update you again next week or in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a wonderful week. Bye.